is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Penny Dreadful, Season 3, Episode 4, A Blade of Grass. In this episode, when women fantasize about being fought over by two powerful, awesome dudes, this is not what we have in mind. I'm sorry, Vanessa. What a bummer. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Vanessa.
Girl.
You got problems.
She do got problems. Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Natasha.
And I'm Maggie.
And Dan could not join us this evening because he is out there earning that paper. So it is just the two of us. And it's kind of funny because we have less people to talk about the episode and less people in the episode.
Yeah, and there's no one in this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mentioned last week that this is one that people liked a lot and responded really well to. And I think it's that intensity of the bottle episode aspect of it and how incredibly bottle episode-y it really is. It's literally just, blank padded room.
Yeah.
That's not just hey, all the people from Friends are going to be in the apartment the whole time for 22 minutes. It's no, it's an hour in a padded room. And that's it.
I really I wonder what approach they took to filming this, because it feels like they went out of their way to try and film from as many different angles as they possibly could to really give you an idea of the space. And it's sort of goes against what I would think would work to make a place feel claustrophobic. My instinct would be to keep the camera settled in one place so that the sameness would really sink in. But that, I guess, isn't really what Vanessa experiences, because even though she is stuck in that same room, it's not the sameness that's happening. So it's just, she carries within her too many other people, too many voices, or the attraction of too many voices.
Yes.
And can just about, it's the sort of thing where if this hadn't been someplace she had already settled down, I would have thought this would be the one place that she could find peace. If this hadn't already happened to her, I would be well, maybe you should go somewhere away from everything where nobody can come and talk to you.
Yeah. And
the
problem is that the people who mess with Vanessa don't respect doors.
Nope, they sure don't. So, yeah.
Did you see that coming? Were you expecting him to suddenly be not him?
No, okay. Not at all. Which is I had said before that I was constantly paranoid about everybody suddenly turning into it.
Right. But they hadn't done it in a while.
Yeah, that's why. I had thought that maybe even her doctor would at one point. But I let it go because it's been such a while and kind of just let my guard down. And then the fucking show is ha, good. Let your guard down, you chump.
Yeah. I especially hated it because I really didn't the first time they showed, I guess it was, with Malcolm, the first time they had somebody be possessed by Lucifer or whoever it was at the time, I can't remember. It was Malcolm, and I knew from the outset what was going on. That didn't trick me. And the same thing with Ethan. in that one episode where she's having the breakdown and he comes to her in her bed.
Mm-hmm.
Something about that scene tipped me off really early on to like, there's something wrong here. This is
Mm-hmm.
off. This did not seem off. This
No.
just seemed, I was like, okay, here's the guy. He's back again. He's just being a little bit more chatty. He's being a little bit nicer, but it wasn't like, oh, he's going to turn around and have black eyes.
Yeah, there wasn't that kind of alarm going off
Yeah.
with it. Yeah.
No, not at all. So that was a good one. It was as close to a jump scare as they really came in that
Yeah, I
episode.
guess that's true, huh?
Yeah.
sorry, guys,
Vanessa
I
definitely
hit my
jumped.
mic. Oh, yeah, she did.
Oh, poor Vanessa. Just this episode is just so poor Vanessa the whole time.
She,
All of
like,
it.
the first, because we start off with her in the doctor's office getting put under with hypnosis, and the first time that we, like, see her in the cell, it's totally dark in there, and she's just scratching at the wall and crying. And I can't, like, sincerely, how draining must it be to do these kinds of episodes? Like, she's crying. This is, she has tapped into something very real.
Yeah,
in
she
all
just
of these
goes
scenes.
for it. It's insane how much she commits to this and how exhausting this must be. And I've said a bunch of times, she is probably the most beautiful woman I've ever seen who's so willing to make herself look so ragged.
She looks like a drowned rat.
Yeah.
She's like
she
skeletal.
she has no vanity about it. Like, she's just like, I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna have broken blood vessels in my face. My eyes are gonna be like bags. My hair is gonna be bedraggled. Like, she's just like, no, this is it. This is me. This is the role. And she just really goes for it. And it just must be really exhausting.
Yeah, I just can't imagine. I just can't imagine, like, because this is almost a straight hour of her on the edge of losing her mind. And how many takes do you have to do to pare it down to a perfect 1 hour?
Right. And they filmed this over a number of days. So I don't know what it's like on this sort of show. On Buffy, I know they did one a week. And so the production was always like the first couple of days was writing and setup, and then the actors would come on to actually do stuff the last 4 days, I guess. But then they have to sit and take breaks in between the different scene setups. And, I've been on set watching those sorts of things. And it's like, the first time I was ever on a set was when I was a little kid, and I went to see them filming an episode of Hill Street Blues, because that was the show that my dad's friend worked on at the time. My dad's friends with David Milch, who did Deadwood, and NYPD Blue. And so we went to see him doing Hill Street Blues. The scene they were filming was literally in a bathroom. Like, it must have been, the police department bathroom.
Okay.
So it was 2 green stalls. I remember this so clearly. I was like 5. So there were these green stalls, and the camera was just shooting somebody, and all you could see was their feet underneath the bathroom stall door. And they had to film it 20 times.
Good God.
And the person just had to sit in the toilet the entire time while they rearranged the lighting and did this and did that and just did it over and over and over again. And I remember watching this and being like, I don't want to be an actor, because at the time my sister had, since she was a little kid, she's like, I want to be an actress when I grow up. I want to be an actress when I grow up. And going to see that and seeing what it was really like to act when it was just you sit there and do that over and over and over again. I'm like, oh, that sounds terrible.
Yep.
So that's one thing, to sit and do something that tedious for that long, but to have to do that with something like this that's so intense, and it's just you all week. There's no breaks. They're not bringing anybody else in to do some stuff, and you can go, to the commissary or whatever. They'll do a take, and you have to go full bore into it, and then they'll stop and they'll fiddle with things, and they'll tell you to change one thing or the other, and then you have to do it again, and then you have to do it again, and then they'll be like, oh, wait, we really need to do this, that, and the other thing. So then you do have to go sit down for 20 minutes and like sort of start coming down from this. And then they're like, nope, do it again, back on. Like, that just seems torturous.
Yeah, there's been only a few times where I've like had something happen with podcasting and had to go back and kind of recreate a moment. And it's my least favorite fucking thing. I hate it so much.
Yeah.
And it's just the kind of thing that I constantly think about. Like, I had been going to get into doing this like performance stuff for a living.
Yeah.
And quickly realized, no, it's not, unless you're doing theater.
Yeah, unless you're on stage.
Then that's one thing. But
right. Yeah, because that's what I was used to. That's what I grew up doing, was being a little theater kid.
Mm-hmm.
And, so you practice, you do it a bunch of times in rehearsal, but then you go out and you perform and you just do the whole thing straight through.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing how different it is to actually be like a film actor, I was like, ooh, that seems bleak.
Right?
I mean, still they get paid ridiculous amounts of money, so it's fine.
Uh-oh.
Okay, I'm here. I made it. I came rushing home. I say that while I did get to stop and get some, Taco Bell, which is something I've never had. I thought it was appropriate because, I haven't seen any of the episodes past this point. I mean, last week's episode.
Right.
So I thought, virgin foods.
You never ate Taco Bell before?
I've never eaten Taco Bell before.
I've never eaten Taco Bell before.
What?
I
oh
have
my God.
Desire.
It's so good. It's really upsetting. Like, it bums me out how good it is. It makes me really angry that they can make food that's like basically barely actual food taste that amazing. Ugh.
Do you think Eva Green needed a lot of Taco Bell on set?
Oh my God.
These kind of fucking scenes?
She seems like the type to eat a lot of tacos.
She's like, those scenes are so quiet that they'd be able to hear her stomach going nuts after a Taco Bell session. Way too loud. She's probably having like bone broth and stuff. Like every time they cut, she has like a hot cup of bone broth from a thermos administered by her nutritionist, just enough to keep her looking gaunt.
Do you think I'm making a big mistake
by eating Taco Bell?
Yeah.
Absolutely fucking not.
I also have a Mountain Dew Freezy from Taco Bell.
Oh lordy, that's a thing that exists? Oh man.
Oh yeah. I'm already feeling, that's the thing, I already feel like fucking caffeinated, and I don't drink that much caffeine to begin with, and I don't really drink Mountain Dew or like heavily caffeinated soda to begin with, and I'm
so this should be fun. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Last night when I was watching Twin Peaks, I drank like 3/4 of a bottle of Prosecco by myself. I was toasted. It was not great.
So this is a little corner we're gonna temporarily call Dan's Munchies. I got 3 Doritos Los Tacos, the Cool Ranch one, and they have this new. It's really glorified chicken nuggets.
Oh, those fucking naked chicken chip
naked
things.
Chicken chips.
What are they talking about?
Good.
They're not naked. They're breaded clearly.
But they are good. Like they're for chicken nuggets.
Chicken nuggets are good. I got so mad at Taco Bell for that. They posted a Facebook ad for them, and somebody was like, chicken nuggets? And they just commented in response, chicken nuggets? Never heard of them. And I was just like, all right, guys, that's pretty ballsy. All right. You earn my respect a little bit. So let's get back into this shit.
Okay.
She starts off being asked to describe this dude. And it is important to note that within this episode, it does not seem as if she remembers or puts together that this is the same guy that she's been talking to. Because why would she? Because that guy is like super pale and has long hair and is just a hot mess. Just really doesn't look like himself in a lot of ways.
Right.
And we see a series of like, the scene begins with her in the dark. After that, it really doesn't seem like she gets to be in the dark ever. So that confused me a little bit, because they won't turn the lights out for her, but the scene like starts out that way. So I don't know if that's supposed to be just a stylistic, like, that we're meant to interpret it as like that's just her mental state. Do you think? Probably, I guess.
Maybe.
Yeah, because they don't ever at any other point turn out the light.
Yeah.
Completely not. So.
And it's just at the beginning of the episode, and then later on it really doesn't happen until the two brothers show up.
Eva Green can look dead-eyed.
Oh my god,
like
she's
so
terrifying.
easily. Like, I just got to the point where like this whole episode is kind of triggering. Like, if anyone has been like in mental institutions or like had medical like malpractice or whatever, you're gonna get fucked up with this episode. So, I hope.
Yeah, I got to be in a big empty room for a while once. It was unpleasant. They just leave you there. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't come check on you. They make sure you have nothing that you can kill yourself with, and then you just sit there. It was fun.
Do they take blankets away too, like he does in this?
Oh, this was just this was an intake situation.
Okay,
so it was
it wasn't like an overnight
suicidality thing. No, then they moved me into an actual room, but I had to stay in the empty room by myself for a couple hours while they like dealt with everything, and they wouldn't let me keep my friend who'd come with me to the hospital had given me a necklace to keep with me, and they were like, "Yeah, no, you can't have that." Mm-hmm. So it was just me, like, basically naked in an empty room and with nothing. That's really, it seems like a weird way to respond to somebody trying to kill themselves.
Right.
Be like, well, here's what it's like to be in a void.
Right? Like, we're going to take away, we're going to make you even more vulnerable, take away any distractions, humiliate you a tiny bit, and leave you completely isolated. Awesome.
Yeah, that would be great for your mental state. That's going to work out really well. But yeah, it was a temporary situation. It was not 5 months. Vanessa was in this room for 5 months.
Jesus Christ.
And that's horrifying. She says that. It's 5 months. And they go through throughout the episode, there's a variety of different things that they do to her to sort of change the situation up a little bit. They do take her out a couple times. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, it's just this.
Do you think subconsciously she knew about Caliban?
Like, when she became friends with him later on?
Well, I think like in the deepest part of her memory, maybe she possible. Because she took affection to him pretty quickly.
I could definitely see it being drawn together without really knowing why.
Yeah.
That's something that my mother, who believes in past lives, and I guess I kind of believe in past lives too myself, just she thinks that we get drawn to people that we used to know. Mm-hmm. So you wind up circling around the same other people over and over again in different lives.
Yeah, I kind of believe, I mean, if I were to be a serious believer in past lives, which I'm not sure I am or not, but if I was, that's what I would believe. Mm-hmm. That's yeah. I think you're kind of stuck with the same whole bunch of losers.
If I had a past life, it would be whoever fucking made this taco.
Good.
Wait.
I'm glad it's good, Dan.
Wait. I don't think the timing on that works out, Dan.
What?
That your past life is the person who is currently alive in your lifetime? I don't think that works out.
Okay, well, you know what? I want in my next life to be the person who rebrands this shit and gets rich off of this shit, because this is amazing.
I told you. Taco Bell, it'll fuck you up, man. Like, and I don't mean just intestinally. I mean, like, you're gonna want it now. That's what it does to you. They put something in it.
There's like dopamine.
I swear to God, I'm not even kidding. There is something in their food, and it's like, yeah, you're gonna start to want it now. Ugh, fucking hate Taco Bell. They're so good.
This episode has been brought to you by Taco Bell.
I wish. Give me some sponsorship, Taco Bell.
Where's the sponsorship money?
I would fucking plug the shit out of Taco Bell.
Come on, fourth meal. That's it. That's the shit. We record and then we go have fourth meal. Isn't that still their thing?
That's why I'm doing these ridiculous meal prep things, is so I don't keep going to Taco Bell.
Yeah,
but Taco Bell is the healthiest fast food, apparently.
It can be, weirdly, like, but
depending on what you order.
Yeah, it can't, like. And their bowls and stuff are really good, honestly. Like, I've gotten their Baja bowls with the chicken, and it's like basically a giant salad with brown rice and whatnot. And they're really, really delicious. But, mostly that's not what I want.
Mostly you just want, like...
I want the fucking Supreme Chalupas. Those chalupa shells. Oh, I don't know where those, like what those even are, but they're just the most good. Anyway, back to the show. Okay, so Vanessa we get the answer to Dan's question from last episode, which was how is the doctor in here with her? Mm-hmm. And she tells her that you are halfway between two places, your memory and the office, so I can be in here with you. And
do you think that's like do you think she has a magical power? Because I kind of get the
absolutely
impression that
not.
She's kind of magically.
Yeah, I definitely do not think that. I think it's just a cinematic thing. I think it's just like her brain interpreting, like in a dream when you are dreaming and your phone alarm is going off and all of a sudden in your dream there is an alarm that appears that is going off. That's how I interpret it. That she hears the doctor's voice and then the doctor's like appears in her thoughts and her memory. Do you know what I mean?
Secretly hope that she's magical somehow.
I don't even disagree that she's magical necessarily. I just don't think this is part of that. Because she's clearly got something going on. Because she has, like, witch powers and whatever. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so yeah. What is his name in this? Do we ever find out, actually, what his name is? Okay.
He never says.
So
he says what his wife's name is, and yeah. Yeah,
well his name is John Clare.
Yeah, so we'll just go with that, since we don't know his real name. So she's refusing to eat, and there is this painful scene where they make us watch the whole thing, where he force feeds her. And it's just the kind of thing that, like, neither of them want this to be happening. He really doesn't want this to be happening. Like, you know, it's the kind of thing that I'm like mad at the show for forcing me to watch the entire process by which this is done.
I know.
I hate
it.
And they have just kind of a montage of him coming in and cleaning up, him coming in and bringing food, him coming in and taking her chamber pot away and bringing a fresh one, and, you know, all this different stuff. And there is, at one point, he brings a plate of food and puts it down just out of her reach in the middle of the room and goes and sits down in a chair. And she says for him to bring it to her. And there's this interesting little battle of wills where, because she basically winds up confronting him when he keeps refusing to bring it and says, "You think I'm a spoiled bitch." And he doesn't deny that. He just looks at her and is just like, well, you know. So is that what it is? Or is it just that he's like tired? Like, you know, if you want to eat, then you'll eat, but you need to like choose to eat. It can't just be, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's that. I think he's trying to encourage her to choose to eat.
Okay.
Because like, honestly, you know, there's later on when she's in the straitjacket and he's feeding her, like, I think he was trying to see if she does have still the will to kind of almost live in a way, because like eating is survival, thus living. And I think it's that. I also like the like tenderness, because like you said, like he didn't really want to do that, the whole force feeding thing.
Yeah, definitely.
And because he really looked really upset about it, and like that liquid, I think it was just broth or whatever, but it looked like piss.
Yeah.
It was just not. It was not fun to be had at all by anyone.
There's a scene in something that I just watched with Owen, and he's like, oh, here's the part with the feeding tube, and I had almost forgotten, and I looked away just in time because those tubes going down people's throats, man. I can't deal with it. It's too awful. Ugh, gross.
Imagine if that was your specific fetish, and like you found it out from this movie. I mean, from the show.
Oh, God. Like, I feel bad for people who have fetishes that specific, because it must be murder to try and find somebody who's into that to like participate in it with you,
or just the drawing of porn or anything. Like,
right?
I know
like,
that
just
the
find
internet
anything.
has everything, but
yeah, there's only going to be like there's definitely going to be a finite amount that you continually see the same things over and over again in your Tumblr searches.
Yeah. Or like maybe they look up instructional videos for like CNAs or some shit to do those kind of things, like, or intubations, like what I did as an EMT. They're just looking for that on YouTube.
Yeah,
like,
maybe, yeah.
But
so she's threatening to, like, she gets up and she's like, well, I'll collapse, even though she's clearly able to go and get it. Like, she's just wanting to fight. She wants to, like, you know, get mad at him. And
she looks so Gollum-like.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's the makeup or if she just does something. Like, it's just like this entire episode, she's like this way to close to going precious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she asks what the treatment is tomorrow, and he says they call it hydrotherapy. And then we jump ahead, and it's the next day, and she's in the middle of the room in wet clothes with the tile floor soaked, and she's shivering violently.
So it's clearly the thing we saw in the other episode where she just gets hosed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Literally and figuratively.
It's that, and also another version of like the ice bucket too. Like when you get doused.
That's what I thought this was going to be when because the camera starts off focused on the floor and you just hear her shivering, and then it slowly pans up and you see her, and I thought she was going to be in a bathtub full of ice water.
Yeah, I did too.
But no, it's already over and done with. And he leaves after taking out the chamber pot and comes back and brings her a blanket. But later on, he has to come back and take it away from her again. Mm-hmm. And she waits until his back is turned and then jumps on him and scratches the shit out of his face.
Yeah, she does.
And I couldn't even be mad at her, to be honest, because this is the worst thing. Like,
it's the one thing of comfort, you know.
Yeah. It's like, she could die of hypothermia. Genuinely, that is a total possibility.
I love how she said, she even says, I could die. And he's like, you won't die. You never die. He seems so confident and like, I've been watching a bunch of these.
Yeah.
It never happens. But, you know, that's not really exactly how it works, dude.
Yeah, right?
You really think so? You keep thinking that. It only takes one time.
So the next time... What's that?
I wanted to ask you, too, when, like, you know, afterwards, when that scene where she's in the straitjacket and being fed, do you think it was entirely Lucifer or whoever it was?
When he's in the room
mean from
with
the
her,
beginning of the
it was
conversation?
his body.
Yeah, or if it was like, he was having a conversation, and then at the last minute,
became like possessed by him.
Yeah, it became possessed by him and turned around and was like, like, you know, like that.
Yeah, I'm very conflicted on it, because the other times that we've seen
do that,
that sort of interaction, it's always been a vision. He's not actually possessing Malcolm or Ethan. You know, with Malcolm, we got to find that out quite graphically. She was just fucking nothing. Yeah. That's fun to watch. And so it doesn't seem to be the real MO to be possessing his actual body. And then especially in the other scene later where we see two of him. So clearly at least one of those is not real. But the reason I'm conflicted about it is that everything he's saying to her in that scene sounds so sincere, and he's using personal details. And so I was watching it, having already seen this episode, rewatching it, being like, okay, which of these conversations is the one where he turns out to be Lucifer? Mm-hmm. And that one I was watching, I'm like, well, it can't be this one, because he's talking about his kid. Now the kid has a cough, and that's all like actual stuff. That's stuff that only he would know. Mm-hmm. But then again, you know, I bet Satan kind of knows everything. So that was a bad assumption on my part.
Demons supposedly know things that like are unsaid, quote unquote.
Right. So yeah, because we see that with her when she's talking as Aminette or whatever, and she's able to say those things to the doctor that nobody would know. So clearly demons have the inside track to all the good info.
Well, I choose to believe that it is totally him until like the last moments, because I just
kinda
don't
like that too.
want to think that this entire thing was in her head. It's just
'Cause
too. It's the
a-
only human interaction she fucking gets. I don't want to think it's like, you know.
I think most of the interactions are like, I think anytime we don't see it specifically being Lucifer, I think it really is him. But that one, I really think, and the other one is in. The other one's confusing because it's doesn't she like snap out of it? And like it's like she's had the whole thing's been a vision the whole time.
Yeah, and he's still just sitting there, like continuing the conversation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think like every time he's in there that he's. I don't think she invented him. I just mean like the ones that we see where he turns out to be Lucifer at the end of the conversation. I choose to think that Lucifer just popped in for a second. That other than that,
just to fuck with her,
he's totally been himself. Because I just can't bear it, frankly.
Because I in a way, I think it's to gaslight her, to make her think also the same thing. What we're thinking is like, was that Lucifer the entire time, or was that dude? Like,
yep. So she doesn't trust anybody and feels even more alone, completely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Oh yeah. Isn't it fun when it's like all the hallmarks of an abusive relationship, but it's with Satan?
Oh, yeah. But it's actual Satan,
the actual devil. Take note, boys. This is how you do it.
Yeah, this is literally, you know,
you're learning from the very best. Who's better at this than Lucifer?
So when she's in the straitjacket getting fed, she has kind of a crisis moment where she's just like, I don't mean anything here. I don't even know if it's day or night. I don't have a name in here, and just she falls into despair a little bit. And he says that she really needs to get better because the treatments get worse. And she says, how? And he looks at her like he might say, and then he doesn't. And he just goes, just get better, eh? And like does this smile that is barely a smile. Mm-hmm. And she says, well, I'm not ill. And he says, well, if you're not, then what are you? And she says, you wouldn't believe me. Nobody would believe me. And why should they? And she tells him, I've been touched by Satan. And this is what he's like on the way out. He's just like, yeah, but I do believe in that whole Satan thing, though. So, And her doctor pops back into her memory at this point because she flips out and backs away from him. And she's like, what did you see? And she has to share with her that, hey, yeah, I saw him suddenly become the devil. Oops. His eyes, the eyes of the demon. It was the orderly and not. And she says, you're manifesting Lucifer through the orderly. So because I have been very on the fence about whether or not the doctor believes her, like when she kind of accuses her earlier of saying, well, I believe that you believe it. And she's like, well, there's no difference. I'm like, well, but there is, like, maybe not in the way that you treat her, but really there should be. But like, I understand. But I really wonder in this moment if she's starting to believe it or not. Like, I can't.
I think she is.
I really want her to. Like, I really do. She seems flipped out enough that I think she is starting to believe, just by virtue of her like kind of panicky attitude when stuff starts to really like get frantic. Mm-hmm. And Vanessa at this point,
which is why I kind of think she sees it too.
You think the doctor sees Lucifer?
Yeah. No, I think she's seeing what Vanessa's seeing. Like, that's why I still maintain, I think she's like.
But she keeps saying, what did you see?
Yeah.
That's true.
So Vanessa's in both places, but the doctor's not.
Damn it. Okay. I don't know. I just really I want her to be special and weird and like, I don't know.
She can still be special and weird, just not in that way. Just not in this one particular circumstance.
That's true.
So at this point, special. Vanessa starts to flip out and she's like, okay, you need to stop the session. And she says, I can't. She gets like firm. Dr. Seward, stop this session now. And she says, Vanessa, I can't. I've been trying. I burned your arm with a cigarette. You won't come out. You won't wake up. You've gone into a fugue state. And Vanessa's like, so do people die during these fugue states? And she's like, yup. She just says it. And she's like, but you won't.
Like, but you won't.
Well, how do you know? I just know. Yeah. So that's fucked up. Like, I want to know exactly how long it's been, because we see such a montage at the beginning of him going in and out and in and out that it could be a couple days at this point that this has been going, awesome. You know, like, I'm not sure how much of the memories are happening in real time and how much of it's sped up for the sake of her expediting to get to the, you know, eventful moments. And there's this really sweet moment where Vanessa's like lays her head in her doctor's lap. Yeah. And I just the doctor
says, what would my ancestor say to you in this circumstance? Which I love the doctor, who's so no nonsense, giving her that sort of softness, that sort of affection, and saying, look, I know you clearly associate me with this woman. Pretend I'm her. What would she say? And, it was really sweet. Really sweet.
That's very, it feels very McGonagall-y for a second.
Yeah.
See that. And she's stroking her hair and everything. Like, she is recognizing, like, there are moments where this is what's needed and I'm going to do that. And she says, I will not leave you for anything in this world. So then she says, okay, so what's next? And she says, she's like, at first, I can't remember. I was drugged. The treatments continued and escalated. And I can't move my arms. And I can't speak. And she starts to, like, look like almost like she's going to choke. And then the camera pulls away and pulls back. And she's got that bit in her mouth, the gag. Ugh, this is humiliating. So I hate it. And I feel like John's face when he comes in to see her, like, it's the sort of thing that I have so much compassion for everybody in this situation. This is part of, like, this is something that I've talked about on other shows. I can deal with horror movies about ghosts and witches and creatures and whatever. But horror movies about people doing things to each other, I have a really hard time with. And when there are, like, Halloween walkthroughs or those, like, ghost hunting shows, and they set it up to look like it's an asylum or they're going through an abandoned hospital, those freak me out more than anything. Because clearly not all, because this kind of profession is going to attract sadists, of course. Like, that's just part of it. But I think in many cases, people were trying to help. Yeah. And that is what scares me the most. Is
and
people
that they
doing
thought that this was helpful.
Yeah. Like, doing this to each other and thinking that they're making progress somehow, thinking that this is the right thing to do. Because there's no getting away from that. And there's no explaining. Because your word doesn't count for anything. And, so those situations to me, it's like, I can't let go of my hang-ups to, like, just enjoy the frights that go along with those. I'm just thinking about the horrific, humiliating indignities and violence that these people suffered at the hands of other people who didn't fucking know anything and were just basically like, see if this works, It's just, it's hard to watch him watch her.
It is, and he even shows that he has a hard time watching her, because he's like, one day very soon, no one will touch you without your permission.
You won't be
Or
touched
put
if you
makeup-
don't want to, and nobody will put makeup on you or take it off you. Because he does this thing here where he takes the gag off of her, and he brushes her hair out, and he puts makeup on her, and he holds the mirror up to her face.
He'd asked his wife, apparently. Mm-hmm. He'd asked his wife about, like, hey, how do I do this nice thing for this lady that I know?
Which is kind of sweet, like, because, like, you know, like, the idea that he was thinking of her outside of... Because I bet you she's one of the few female patients, possibly.
I don't know. Women got committed over fucking nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I do like the idea that she concerns him enough that he discusses her. And he's brushing her hair, and he like doesn't have any. He says he doesn't have any sisters or anything. Which is one of the, my father was really good at doing my hair because he had 7 sisters. So he learned how to French braid and, you know, do all that stuff. But my mom had no fucking clue. So if I wanted to get my hair done, my dad had to do it. And he's like telling her that it makes him sick to see her like this. And that if they knew that he was doing this for her right now, they would sack him. And then who would look after her? Which is a really sad line in light of the fact that he winds up leaving later on in the episode. And I wonder how long after he leaves she stays. But yeah, he puts the makeup on her and holds up the mirror and it's just like, now look, I want you to remember that this is who you are. And it is really sweet. Like... I don't know. It's such an odd thing that I wonder where the idea came from. Because it's so specific.
Yeah. And then he has to take it all back off of her and mess her hair back up and put the bit back on her and everything. And
he reads to her, and it's just like,
and he reads her. I have a little shadow that goes in and out with me, and what can be the use of him is more than I can see.
Which makes
he is
me wonder
very,
again,
very
is
like me. Yeah, from the heels up to the head, and when I see him jump before me when I get into my bed, and I'm just like, you know, this is adorable, but also fucking stop it, because this feels like I'm in Legion, and I don't want any of that happening in here, please. Thank you very much. But yeah, he reads
the
to
angriest
her.
little boy in the world.
Right?
He is. Mm-hmm.
He looks a little like him.
Yeah.
Perfectly round face.
Oh man. I hate to be off track, but it's been 45 minutes maybe. That Taco Bell is coming back.
I'm telling you. That's why I was saying that there's no way that she's eating Taco Bell on set, because they couldn't do these kinds of scenes.
Sheldon and my cat, I had to mute my microphone for the loudest rip I've ever let out. and it's gross. It is not pleasant.
Oh,
I don't even, like, that's the thing.
You've been initiated. It's time.
When I fart, it doesn't smell at all. If it only smells, it's probably if I took my medication recently, and then like it kind of smells a little weird, but not a lot. This feels like I killed something inside me.
Oh man, there was. I'm sorry. I hate when I think of something that I want to talk about, and I know that nobody in the conversation is going to know what I'm referencing, and it's going to be super boring for anybody listening.
Oh, try it.
It's like I just was listening to the newest episode of Complete Guide to Everything, and the whole episode is supposed to be about fake meats, because they just did an episode on meat last week, and one of them is vegetarian. And he was talking about how he got the like Beyond Burger, which is supposed to be a burger that bleeds, but it's made of meat. Or made of vegetables. And it bleeds because of the beets in it and stuff. And he was saying like
videos of that,
that when he was cooking it, he said it smelled bad, and his friend is like, what did it smell like? And he's like, it wasn't that bad. It just smelled like, like rotten garbage.
Oh yeah, it's just that. That's not so bad.
He's trying to like minimize it, even as he's saying this horrible thing.
It's rotten garbage. No
I have not laughed that hard in a while. I was in the middle of like cooking and I had to stop and like put my knife down because I was like shaking laughing because he's trying to say it's not a big deal, but then he was like nauseous from it. Oh, okay.
Right.
Sorry.
I'm gonna mute my microphone yet again. And I think it's a potty break right now, so please continue.
Okay.
Please continue. BRB.
All right. So he tells her, this is when he finishes reading, and he says, "I'm sorry. One day soon, no one will touch you when you don't want to be touched, and no one will put makeup on you or take it off. Ever, ever again." And this actor in this moment, I'm just like, oh, you're killing me, dude. Because he really gets it. You can tell.
Yeah, it must be. It's nice to see him being not Caliban, even though obviously the show has tried recently to make Caliban more sympathetic over time. It's still he just so much of the time feels like he should be wearing a fedora or a trilby. That he's kind of insufferable still, but to see him in his past incarnation and being so very different must have been nice for the actor, and I think it's nice for us as viewers too to have that variety.
Yeah, agreed. It's hard. Like, the thing about trying to make him sympathetic is that they haven't addressed what he was like. They're just having him like remember his past, and suddenly we care a little bit more about that aspect, but they haven't addressed the entitlement or anything else about his attitudes. So it's hard to know how much of that is, new and how much, it seems like it's new because we don't see much of that here. And this is where I feel like it would come out with a woman being kind of under your control. But, he says here, I have to be honest. I don't believe in God, but I'm still going to pray for you.
Yeah.
So he has to put the gag back in her mouth, and it was just like the worst thing, like watching him have to redo that. And as he leaves, he turns and says, "It's Christmas today," to give her some perspective of the amount of time that she's been in there. Well, he doesn't do it with that express purpose, but, it does that for when the audience hears it.
Right.
And she's just like sitting there and she starts crying all by herself. It's a really long shot just of her face as she's, it's just like, I can't with this. I can't. It's so, she's so good. What the fuck? Like,
yeah. It's so intense and it's so intimate, and it just seems like she doesn't seem like anybody other than this person. Like, it doesn't seem like she's acting. There's nothing acty about this. It's just other than this whole stylized nature of the show itself. Inherently, this isn't a person you're going to meet walking down the street, but within the world of it, you buy it, and it doesn't seem put on at all. Like, she's just so completely this person. It's like you're watching an actual person in a mental institution having a breakdown. It's real fun.
Yeah, super fun.
Poor thing.
And in a moment, she gets up because we jump forward in time a little bit, and she's talking to John and tells him, "I didn't know when I came in that I was never going to get out again," because at this point she really doesn't believe she will. And every flower I smelled was my last flower, and every kiss my last kiss, and then says, "I've only ever been with one man." And she takes
he starts looking real nervous at that point.
Right. And she undoes her hospital gown, which up till now she's had shorts on underneath it. I guess she took those off already or something. And she goes up to him and kisses him, and he's like unresponsive at first. then he starts to get into it and kiss her back. And all of a sudden, it's like he realizes, oh my God, I'm getting into it and kissing her back. Right. And he just yanks her away from him and dresses her again. And I'm so glad. Thank God. Mm-hmm. I was just like, if this were Caliban, this would be different. Like, I really think. Here's Stan back.
Did you get my messages?
Yeah, but I was ignoring them because I'm podcasting, Dan. Oh, God.
Do you want to read it?
No, I don't. I'm good. So she just tried to kiss John, and he pushed her off him, and then he tied them up. Tied up and he says, finally, if you don't show signs of improvement, they're going to try a new treatment that involves surgery. And she's very cavalier about this. And it's just like, yeah, all right, fine. Fucking do it. Whatever. And he's like, no, you do not understand.
She says specifically, I'll sing as he cuts me open. And it's like, nah, bro. Like, that's not what's going to happen.
She's trying to Joan of Arc it over here. And he's like, no, they'll strap you down. They'll sedate you. He'll use a drill to open your skull. It's not a medical thing. It's a drill for woodwork. I really like that he adds that. He's just like, this is fucking brutal, man. It's one of those things that, like, when you're kind of when you find out that they just use, like, a chainsaw to get through people's ribs at times, that you're just like, wait, it's not, like, they just have to do horribly brutal things. And you think that there's a special medical way where they can just, like, make it so, like, a little not terrible. No.
Mm-mm. They just start taking bits out.
There's only one way to get through a rib cage. And then he'll put a clamp on your skull and crack it open, and he will start cutting things out. And I see the results. That's where my job starts again. You'll have lost your ability to control your body. You'll piss and shit on yourself, and I will clean it up. And maybe that will start to come back to you. It doesn't always, but maybe. And if it does, that's maybe the only thing. Because no matter what, they're never the same. And sometimes they can't open their eyes, or they can't talk, or they can't walk, or they can't hear. And he's just, freaking out as he's telling her this.
And he tells her, like, you'll be a broken thing, not a flower, not a tiger. And, like, I think he
not
really cares about
grass.
her. Yeah.
Not a clump of earth. And I'm kind of like, well, I don't want to be that, but okay.
But that's kind of isn't that kind of like foreboding of him, like with fucking Frankenstein? Because like God created Adam from ash, or was it
clay?
He created him from the earth and whatnot, and same thing, like, when no, shh, Sean, shh. Drop it. When Frankenstein also names his second kid, he was gonna call him a biblical name, but, like, he was basically referencing both God and also shut up, Sean. God and also, just skip me. I had a point, and then my dog's subtle squeaking just, like, distracted me.
Okay.
I just think it was kind of foreboding that, like, he talks about a lump of clay being created, like, similar to, like, how fucking Frankenstein likes to play God and creates people out of things. Yeah.
Okay. And this is when he says, you need to pretend to be cured. Because you can. Like, he knows that she can. She says, do you want me to pretend to be something else? And he demands, which I liked this question a lot, is it so important to be special? To be different? And she wants to know if he would ask his kid to pretend to be something that he wasn't. And he says no, but, you know, obviously this isn't the same. But okay, Vanessa, fine. And he says, let me help you. You're not ill, so you tell me, what are you? And this is when she starts talking about, you know, being touched and why would the devil want you? And this whole thing fucking kicks off.
Right. So he comes over, he brings the chair over and sits down and starts talking to her, which is important to note because that's where, when this whole thing ends, it flashes back to that moment. So it's like, everything he said to her up until then, I'm willing to take as 100% coming from him, totally genuine, has nothing to do with these other spirits or whatever. And then it just switches into something else. That's how I'm choosing to read that.
I agree. I want that to, like, that's the main thing, is that I just want that to be true.
Yeah, right? And it makes sense. Like, the rest of his actions through the end of the episode don't make sense unless he has already said all those things, and it's really him saying them. So, yeah. But yeah, now we get a whole little tag team effort. Lucifer and Dracula.
Yeah, he starts off and he's just like, oh, they used to crack people's skulls open to try and let me out all the time, and it didn't work then, and it doesn't work now.
And she's like, oh, fuck.
Right. She's backed into a corner, literally.
Yep.
And she asks, what is your name? And he says, my favorite's Lucifer. And then this giant fucking shadow snake comes up the wall, which I can't decide if I like this effect or not.
Yeah, it's a CGI that I'm not sure I like.
Yeah, I think I liked it the first time I watched it, and this time, the second time around, I'm like, I don't enjoy the shadow puppet show that's going on in the background throughout the scene. I think it's unnecessary.
Yeah,
because they do other ones too.
Yeah, I think unnecessary is really the word. That he is good enough and threatening enough as an actor when he changes over to this that I don't. They don't need to amplify that with anything.
It doesn't need to be like, he's a serpent,
right?
Like, we get it. You don't need the visual aid. He's selling it. We're good. Yeah. Anyway. So,
and you know what's also kind of weird is the idea that Dracula and him share powers similarly. So like that kind of fucks up the whole like vampire narrative, I guess.
How
what
so?
We commonly, well, like, has it been like even in Dracula, like the book, like he doesn't fucking actually project himself as a different image of someone, does he? I don't think so.
Oh, but I mean, he can shapeshift, but I mean, obviously, he can't. He like can be seen in mirrors and stuff. So whatever is in the book doesn't actually.
Yeah,
seem to be
the lore doesn't seem to be working in this, so I'm willing to accept that, and accept that Sweet is not what his his actual physical body has always been. Like, he was chilling up in heaven looking like that dude, and then God kicked him out, and he's like, "Fuck, I guess I should start eating people." That I don't think it's been that particular look the whole time.
I think I agree. I think he's probably shape-shifted a lot.
Yeah.
But it's kind of weird seeing them like be weird brothers to each other.
Yeah, it was a little weird.
And he starts to get down on the floor and crawl towards her.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he's hypnotizing her when he does it, because she gets down on the floor with him and comes toward him, and her eyes are like lidded when she does it, like she's half closed.
Yeah.
And when he's talking, she starts like agreeing with him, and he gets up off the floor, and like their fingers are intertwined. And all I could think through this scene was like how uncomfortable this looks, like as an actor to do this a million times.
Yeah, just crawl across the floor. Make sure your fingers get wrapped up.
And like interlace your fingers and stand up into basically like cobra. And,
I was getting it's yoga. It's like dual actor yoga.
Yeah, I'm just like, this sucks, man. I hate it. Like
it looks like a scene that you would see in a musical. Like,
yeah, it's definitely very choreography in a way that the show usually is not. I was really struck throughout this that you never see her until I guess the very end of this scene to a certain extent. She's never in that like Aminette place that they always tend to take her to when she's interacting with these people. She seems just like straight up Vanessa. And so it's like I've always sort of been under the impression that they're after Vanessa because she's hot too, but it's really this other thing that's associated with her that's part of her that's so important to their prophecies or whatever. And she's not that at all throughout this when they're doing all their sexy times. She does not go into that place that she usually goes when there's sexual energy involved.
Do you think with like, because this is 5 months in a very past, do you think this interaction is what sets off and like links her to Aminette? And that way
she was already in that before she went in. Like because the time sequence is, she fucked Mina's fiance. Yeah. And that's sort of where things really kicked in and then it went from there. So she didn't get committed until this thing was already activated within her or whatever. And that's the other thing, because at the end of the scene, she starts speaking Verbus Diablo and Vanessa does not learn the Verbus Diablo until later. So that has to be Aminette pulling some shit. But she's talking as Vanessa immediately beforehand. So again, the cosmology here is muddled throughout all 3 seasons in a frustrating way for me. But the fact that she as Vanessa seems to be falling for Lucifer's pitch here, I don't know how much I buy it.
Yeah, same. Agreed.
So
that's the only thing is that I feel like is it like a hypnosis sort of thing, because it feels like the devil, I've always felt like he tempts you with things that you actually want in your heart of hearts, which is what we sort of saw at the end of last season. And Dracula is the one that can put a glamour on you. So it kind of frustrated me that this was what was happening here too, like twice in a row. But yeah, they're in the middle of this, and then all of a sudden you hear the flapping of wings. Her bed goes flying across the floor, and surprise, there's a second one. And I love that Lucifer is looking around like, oh shit, oh big brother's
not him.
here.
Oh boo!
And he's like cowering behind the chair,
like his brother's gonna give him a swirly in the toilet or something.
He literally
looks suddenly really intimidated.
He really does look like he's gonna get a wet willy from him, especially when he got close and kind of like, because he kind of jabs him, doesn't he? Like Dracula jabs him a bit.
Yeah, he like. I didn't expect Dracula to have the upper hand with Lucifer, but he clearly is afraid of Dracula. So, yeah.
It seems like the way that they describe it is the idea that, Dracula is the one who is of earth and of blood and of these fleshy sort of things. So it's like maybe on this earthly plane, he does have the upper hand because he's able to actually manifest there really in a very different way, in a very concrete way, where Lucifer doesn't have nearly as much power and has to work through other people.
Yeah, his amazing line about how like, oh, we're entering into an era of science and faith is becoming less and less common, and will you continue to exist if people don't believe in you? And Lucifer looks at him like he's pissed that his brother figured it out. Yeah. Like that's exactly true. And he's like, God damn it. So that's fun. Whereas I can just, keep drinking blood and everything is fine. And they don't have to believe in me. I can still drink their fucking blood. They won't believe forever, brother. So yeah, I really love the kind of interplay between the two of them because it's really unexpected. Really unexpected. And he tries to rub his head like he's this little boy, and he flinches off of him and is like, well, I'm only concerned with the faith of one, her. And they start to circle each other. And this is when he starts to I think, put the psychic whammy on her a little bit. And he talks about hunting and stalking and makes it like it's a very... He phrases it in a human way, as if she were a creature. And we know that to a degree, that is how she feels. That's how Ethan feels. When you have abilities that are more than most people, you're gonna feel to a degree like you can just do whatever the fuck, and who's gonna stop you? And you just have to sort of rein that in, because you're not a fucking monster, but you have the potential to be a monster. And Ethan can't rein it in. Poor guy. But yeah, he has her hand clasped in his, and she like leans back and exposes her neck to him, and he's like feeling her up and the whole thing. And she is an instant away from letting him bite her. Like a second. And he says, "My name is Dracula." And for some reason, that's the thing that makes her like straighten up and back away from him. And it, like, if she had waited another second, he would have bitten her. It was like, I was just really surprised at how close he came. And, you know, part of what he says, he's just like, you know, they're never going to accept you. They're going to keep locking you away in rooms like this. So, you know that I won't do that. You know that I will call you my beloved. And when you've been in this place for 5 fucking months, I'm sure that sounds really appealing.
Because he even says, like, he basically is giving her unconditional love. He says, because, like, you know, I love you for who you are, Vanessa.
And you don't need to give up your soul, which is the thing that she was so concerned about. He's like, yeah, you could just, you know, be a vampire, but you don't have to like give your soul away, which you're so concerned about, which technically isn't not really true, probably.
Yeah.
But you know, you can make it sound that way. And so yeah, she's like, she says, both are promised to another, he who vanquished you, he who protects me and stands with me even now. And they both start to freak out, realizing that she's rejecting both of them.
Yeah. And it's interesting, like, he's such a good actor, the guy who plays Jean-Claire / Caliban, because he has 2 different postures, one for Lucifer and one for Dracula, and you see it by the kind of how they stand. And I know they're doing the whole what was it, Parent Trap trick, where they're doing that, but it's really done pretty well. And also, like, you see that it does look like 2 different characters are on there.
Yeah, this is something that, if you ever watched Orphan Black, is done to the like nth degree, to the point that it's unbelievable. Right. You're just watching it like, how is this not real? I'm looking at this. This is real. What are you talking about? Nope. All one lady. She's just a fucking genius. But yeah, then she starts to be like, yeah, you want to see evil? I'm right here, motherfuckers. And she lifts off the floor and starts chanting some shit at them that basically banishes them, as she's like floating in the corner of her fucking padded room. This moment of the 2 of them backing away from her, I understand that Amunet is in her. It's just hard for me to understand how this works. Because the 2 of them are so powerful. How can she just like send them away? You know what I mean?
Well, it's like the ridiculous shit, like supposedly vampires can't go into a house without being invited. You know, like, it's like weird ass like rules of like weird shit. Like, of course, clearly we've established that that's not true in this world, that, you know, that fucking vampires break into like shit all the time in here. But like, I don't know. I guess she is, I think, in a way, her own right, very, very, very powerful, because she is Amunet. So like, I don't know. And in a way, I think that's why they desire her so much,
Right.
is because she is so powerful.
Yeah, because she
Yeah, I
does
guess
have the
that's what it
capacity to
is.
push them away if she really wants to, which is rare.
Which is why they want to seduce her and torment her to fucking... Again, they're being those guys who are like, well, I'll just either be super Mr. Nice Guy, which is what Dracula was trying to do, like, and neg her, basically. And, like,
I can't,
I'll
like,
make
that
her
just
desire
still
me.
cracks me the fuck up, that
That
was
he was
exactly
negging
what was
her?
happening.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I can't remember your name. What's your name again? Like,
What
come
a
on,
fucking
dude.
shitbird.
And then the complete opposite, where, like, Lucifer is just like, I'm gonna fuck with you so much until you actually, like, want me to, like, until you say yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for Eternity they probably just switched up, fucking tactics and shit like that constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And but what's interesting is that, like, clearly this is a vision within a vision within a vision type thing. So it's very meta, because she kind of startles awake and she's sitting across from, which I think is the sickest burn here, because I think both Natasha and I watch with the captions on.
Mm-hmm.
The caption reads, oh, you did too, Maggie?
Mm-hmm.
The caption reads creature.
Yeah.
Who's talking. So it's like, fuck yeah, sick burn. He's not even called orderly here. He's still a creature.
Just the creature.
And he's talking normally to her. So I wonder if maybe again, assuming that, like, oh, the beginning of the conversations is him, and then suddenly she's just, like, taken to, like, fucked up land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and he's just like, he's like, so why is the devil interested in you? And she's like, I gotta go to bed.
Yeah.
Just
I don't
ends the
really
fuck
wanna
out of
talk about
that
this anymore.
conversation.
Yeah.
So the doctor reappears next to her and is like, hey, come back. We're gonna get out of here finally. Listen to the sound of the gramophone. And Vanessa is like, no, I am not done here, actually. And we see her then with her head shaved. And she's sitting there, and John is looking at her like, this is just the worst. The worst, like, having to look at her like this.
She kind of looks like his son. Like,
just, like,
doesn't it?
You know what she looks like? Have you guys seen the George C. Scott version of the Christmas Carol?
No.
Okay, first of all, everybody talks about him up at Christmas Carol, and sure, it's really fun. But if you read the Christmas Carol and liked it for what it was, watch the George C. Scott version, because it's like almost identical to the book, and it is so fucking well done and so moving emotionally in this really profound way. His acting is just ridiculous. And
okay, so who does she look like?
She looks like
Tiny Tim?
Absolutely not. Shut your mouths. No. I mean, maybe a little. No, she looks like ignorance and want, which are hiding under the robes of the ghost of Christmas present.
Future.
But no, it's under the present. The future does not talk to him.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, I gotcha.
Okay, yeah.
And don't you mess with me with Christmas Carol, guys. Okay, I think I fucking know.
Okay.
It's your shit.
They're
Dickensian shit is yours.
They're dressed in like almost the same sort of like shapeless sack kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the circles under their eyes, really gaunt looking. And she has this like childish sort of look to her because she's so slender. So yeah, that's what she looks like. And she's got this look on her face, and she's talking to him like, "I'm sorry, buddy. I really gave it my best shot. Like." She says, "I spoke lowly. I bent my head. I was a submissive dog." And it almost worked until he asked me about my faith. And then I told him that the Almighty was within me. And this part I didn't quite understand. She said, "I told him the truth, that God's immortal glory lives in me as in all of us." And how can that be anything but lunacy to a man like Dr. Banning? Mm-hmm. Which, like, I mean, sure, but also like,
didn't a lot of people believe that?
Right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. This bothered me a little bit.
It just depends on how she expressed it to him, I think. That's sort of my
I
thought
guess
of it.
that's true.
Yeah. Also, a lot of
his spirit lives in me, as in there's actually a spirit living in me.
Right.
You've met him. Like, she's not real nice to you. And he's like, oh, yeah, that whole thing. That's still going on. Okay.
Right.
If you say so.
Around that time, atheism was really kicking up, too. And also, like, this idea of extreme religions, too. Like there was this idea of, like, okay, you know, like, we're just culturally religious. You know, it's not like we really believe this kind of shit. Even the church kind of was like that for a little bit.
I feel
where it
like
was just like
the psychiatric profession at this point was definitely skeptics. You know, this wasn't religious psychiatry. You know, like they weren't, you know, trying to. This wasn't an exorcism. This was it's all in your head. It's all about, you know, the reality, the here and now, and no flights of fancy and none of this God shit. You know, I'm sure that Miss Clayton, her current shrink, is not religious at all. Like, thinks this is, or at least wasn't until this point. Now things may have changed a little bit for her.
Right.
She may be believing, it may not be religion per se, but she may be a little more open-minded about things that aren't just, you know, reality, whatever that means.
So he steps forward and gives her the plate of food, and she just shrugs and goes, "Why bother?" And he says, "Well, you'll need your strength for tomorrow." And she definitely looks flipped, like she didn't think it was going to happen that fast. Where I'm like, of course it's tomorrow. They just shaved your head. They're not going to shave your head and let your hair grow back a week later and then do it. Like, lady, come on, think. But she takes the plate.
Do you think she actually shaved her head for this role?
No, she didn't.
No.
Yeah, you can. Her head is so like bulbous at the top.
Yeah, it's bulky at the back.
Yeah,
it's all round at the bottom.
She's definitely got
unless her
hair.
medulla oblongata is real big and we just never see it because of her hair. That's where her hair's hanging out.
That was such a tricky thing, is getting somebody's hair down, like pressed against their head like that for wigs and stuff.
Hair.
I had when I worked in theater, there was a play that I worked in costuming, and there was a woman that had to wear a wig, and she had gorgeous hair, and it constantly frustrated me that they made her wear a wig over her hair. And it would take like a 45 minutes of prep to just pin it down flat enough to fit the wig over it. It was just like, why are you guys doing this? You could just put her hair in curlers in that amount of time, and then she could just have great hair. But no. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so he sits down with her, and he says they're talking about her life if she weren't here. That she says, "I'd make a horrible wife," and he's like, "Well, no, that's not true." And she laughs at him, and then he says, "I'll miss your hair," and she says, "Well, it'll grow back," and he says, "No, I'm leaving tomorrow." And you see her face, just like, I mean, that's it, right?
Yeah.
You have the one person. That's fucking awful, and I'm mad at him for it because his reason is, this place sucks, so I'm gonna leave you here, you know. Like, really, man? That you're gonna tell her that's your reasoning, that this place is so terrible that you just can't bear to be here, so you're gonna leave her alone with who fucking knows coming in?
Well, I think the other way to think of it is, she has throughout this been like, you know, why are you complicit in this, to him? Like, I think that's what he's been taking away from this, is that he's helping them put people like her through things that he's increasingly come to see as really cruel and pointless.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
And
it feels like he's abandoning her when she's finally feeling better.
He says that the last thing she's going to see is someone who loves her. Mm-hmm. He won't leave until she's gone into the surgery. And what he's basically also saying, and as he said before, you're not going to be you anymore when you come out. So you're not going to know who I am anyway. So, you know, but of course that's true. Not what happens, because her head doesn't do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, because the devil's just like, no.
And I'm closing that shit back up. So the guy's like, okay, I guess we're done with the surgery. We'll just leave this hole here and hope that the trepanation's enough. We don't have to actually lobotomize anything. That should be fine. This should be good. Can we discharge her now? Just get her out of here. But I think that's his assumption is you're not going to remember me anymore. I can't watch you like this, and I can't be doing this to people. I can't be part of something that I think is harmful anymore. That's what I took away from it. I think that's what she took away from it too. She didn't seem like I didn't get.
Yeah, she definitely didn't, which was part of what I was like, oh my God, I'd be so mad. Like she's being really kind to him, but Jesus, I'd be like, come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. And he gives her a kiss before he leaves, and it's just a really sweet moment of them just like looking at each other, and her being wistful when he leaves. And as she's sitting there, we finally come back into the present, and she's at the doctor's desk, and there's like 6 cigarettes in the ashtray and pages of notes and like 7 cylinders sitting there. Yeah, it's been a while. And the doctor's just staring at her. And then when she realizes that she's back out, she's like, oh God, thank you. Like she didn't ask her to come out of it. The fact that Vanessa did it herself, I think startled her a little bit because she didn't initiate it at all. And Vanessa's like, at first relieved that she's come back out, and then she looks down at her hand at the fucking cigarette burn, and she's just like, okay. But thankfully she's got some booze on hand, which you'll need that. Absolutely. It feels like it's only been several hours. It hasn't been days. Like it felt like it could have been. And Dr. Sewell is like, so you have vague memories, like dreams, right? And she's like, no, I remember everything now. Like this is not vague for me at all. And then says his name is Dracula, which obviously this is sort of like Walking Dead, where there's no zombie word extant. So you can't just have people saying zombies, because that's not. So Dracula isn't a thing here. So her saying it out loud doesn't sound as totally insane as it would here, for example, where she's like, his name is Dracula, and everybody's like, okay, hold the phone. I'm going to go get somebody. And that's the end of the episode.
His name is Joe Dracula.
Joe. Joe Drac, he goes by. J Drac. He's
Drac.
a DJ. Oh God.
We both said J Drac. I'm totally calling him J Drac from now on.
They're so predictable.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Is that his like Jersey Shore persona?
I was thinking for his DJ name.
But
No, this is J Drac. And he's got like a whole
got
thing.
Some visor.
Yeah.
Some sort of cockeyed visor, see-through.
Remember when in the 90s dudes would wear their visors upside down?
What
was that about?
Yeah.
I don't know, it's so can't hardly wait. I can't even with it.
I forgot about that
You
until
mean
I
you can't
saw
hardly wait for it to be done?
No, the 90s were a crazy, insane time, and the fact that we have, inevitably, cyclically come around to the time where the youths all are aping 90s stuff, and I'm like, no, you don't understand, though. You don't understand how terrible all these things were.
I had completely forgotten about the visor thing until there was something that was like men like looking like a douchebag for the past 5 decades or something.
Oh
yeah,
did you see that
video?
That video, the evolution of douchiness or whatever it was.
I shared that. Yeah.
That was. I think he wears the upside down visor in that, and I was just like, oh my God, I forgot.
I forgot that guy.
Yep. Frosted tips. Puka shell necklaces. I used to think that was hot. God help me. All right, so I need to wrap this up because I have to go pick Owen up from work. But I want to say hi to new patrons real quick. So we have Evan Allen David Haley, Iha Again, and Molly Murray all just became patrons this past week. So thank you guys so much. And welcome to the crew, the super cool, cool kids club. You can tell that it's cool because I keep saying cool when I talk about it. And make sure to register on unspoiledpodcast.com to get access to legacy episodes that are for patrons only. If you're $5 and up, you'll get immediate access to Maggie and my coverage of Twin Peaks. And yes, we will be covering the new season. We are halfway through season 2 right now. So I think how many episodes are going to be in this new season? Do you know?
18.
Okay. So it won't be quite over by the time we finish season 2.
No, but we also will need to watch the movie, which is available on Showtime.
Right.
And the first 2 episodes that aired last night are sort of like a 2-hour premiere. So it's really only like 17.
There were 2 episodes that aired last night?
Yeah.
Good God. What is television anymore? Doesn't make any sense to me. It's just not. Yeah, they're just like, whatever, do whatever.
They aired 2, but they made the first 4 available. So I've watched the first 4 episodes, but 3 and 4 are going to air both next week.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's going to be, they're going to parcel it out one at a time, I think.
Okay.
As far as I know. But that seems to be the new thing, the mini binge, because they did the same thing with Handmaid's Tale on Hulu. Mm-hmm. So they put out the first 3 episodes all at the same time. And then, so you could do like a little mini binge, and now it's week to week.
Okay.
So I guess that's a thing now. I don't know how I feel about it.
Okay, so that's coming up. Anyway, back to the thing. And also I'm doing Sherlock with Rashawn, and she and I are going to be recording the 4th episode of season 3 this coming Saturday. And then after that, she and I are going to start doing some Harry Potter stuff, the movies and whatnot. So that should be interesting. Because she has to watch the movies before we go to Wizarding World. She just has to.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
So, yeah, that's about it. Do you guys have anything that you would like to plug?
Just all the stuff you said.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, hold on. Let me pull up something real quick. Okay. So my messages from the bathroom to Natasha were...
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.